Hi, I'm Sophie,
I'm Presley.
and we're talking about group polarization. So, group polarization is defined as a tendency for a group to make more extreme decisions or opinions than the individual members would make on their own.
This is a really important concept to understand because it impacts things like juries, political groups, online communities, and everyday decision making.
In 1961, James Stoner did research on what he called the risky shift, which is where after group discussion, people made riskier choices than they did alone. But later studies showed that sometimes their decisions became more cautious and not risky. Either way, it seemed that group discussion led to more extreme decisions in whatever direction they first started in. Stoner's initial research led Myers and Lamb to the concept of group polarization in 1976.
But polarization isn't just about risk. Studies show it in many areas, including attitudes, juries, and ethics. Attitudes were impacted because people who had slight initial leanings left discussions holding longer versions of those attitudes. Jury research shows that verdicts tend to move towards harsher or more lenient outcomes depending on the group's original viewpoint. Groups tend to reinforce ethical leanings, become stronger or more lenient based on where they started.
So, why does group polarization happen? One major cause is something called informal influence, which is when people's views become more extreme when they hear new, persuasive arguments and information based on evidence that supports their existing beliefs. Essentially, members gain confidence in their views by seeing that others have similar viewpoints.
This is essentially confirmation bias. Another reason for group polarization is interpersonal comparison, which happens when people want to be seen positively within their group. If being cautious or riskier seems socially acceptable in a setting, people will adjust their standing to fit the group norm.
So one of the major applications of the group polarization effect is within a jury setting. In a 1978 study of authoritarianism and decisions of mock juries, it was hypothesized that group interaction tends to enhance choice tendencies initially favored in the subject population.
For this specific study, took mock jurors and found out that high authoritarians produce more guilty verdicts and also produce more severe punishments, as well as having more pre versus post discussion verdict changes, which is really important to the idea of group polarization because if predominant sentiment among individual jurors is towards a guilty or not guilty verdict, the sentiment should be more predominant following discussion.
Another example that I thought of when researching this was the Capitol raid on January 6th. This is when a group of Trump supporters raided the Capitol after Trump basically told them that it was okay to. And I thought that this kind of reflects a group polarization idea because those people may not have done that when they were solo or may not have even had that idea, but when they came in a group together, their opinions and their risk level that they were willing to take became a lot higher.
It's also interesting because they're heavily influenced by a person in power. So that can be another aspect of group polarization. Another thing that we thought of was social media and how that can be really impacted. People tend to follow what the things that they see their friends doing on social media or influencers or things like that. Those are things that tend to polarize groups because those are in places of influence, but also social media can tend to take us out of reality and cause us to do things that we wouldn't normally do.
We hope that this helped you learn a little bit more about group polarization in an applicable and helpful way.
Yay!